It was a chilly October night when I received an order for a large pepperoni pizza to be delivered to Elm Street, a notorious area known for its eerie ambience and abandoned houses. Despite the warnings from my colleagues about delivering to Elm Street after dark, I needed the extra cash, so I grabbed the pizza and headed out. As I drove down Elm Street, I couldn't shake off the feeling of unease that washed over me. The houses on either side of the street loomed ominously in the dim streetlights, their windows boarded up and their gardens overgrown with weeds. I finally arrived at the address, a dilapidated house with peeling paint and a crooked porch. My instincts screamed at me to turn back, but I brushed them off and approached the door with the pizza box in hand. As I knocked on the door, it creaked open slightly, revealing a dark abyss beyond. My heart pounded in my chest as I cautiously called out, "Pizza delivery." There was no response, only the sound of my own breathing echoing in the silence. With a sense of dread creeping up my spine, I pushed the door open further and stepped inside. The interior of the house was even more decrepit than the outside. Dust coated every surface, and cobwebs hung from the ceiling like eerie decorations. The air was thick with a musty odor that made my stomach churn. I called out again, louder this time, but still received no answer. As I ventured further into the house, I noticed strange symbols drawn in chalk on the walls, accompanied by cryptic writings in a language I couldn't understand. Suddenly, a chill ran down my spine as I heard a faint whispering coming from the darkness ahead. My heart raced as I followed the sound, my footsteps echoing through the empty corridors. I eventually reached what appeared to be the kitchen, where a single candle flickered on the table. Sitting in the dim light was a figure cloaked in shadows, their face obscured from view. "Is that the pizza?" the figure rasped, their voice sending shivers down my spine. I nodded hesitantly, holding out the pizza box with trembling hands. Without a word, the figure reached out and took the box, their touch ice cold against my skin. As they opened the box, I caught a glimpse of their face, or lack thereof. Where their features should have been, there was only darkness, as if their face had been swallowed by the shadows themselves. I stumbled backward in horror, my mind reeling with disbelief. Before I could make sense of what was happening, the figure spoke again, their voice echoing in the empty room. "Thank you for the delivery," they said, their tone dripping with malice. "But I'm afraid you won't be leaving." With that chilling declaration, the candles in the room flickered and went out, plunging me into darkness. I screamed as unseen hands grabbed hold of me, pulling me into the abyss with a force that seemed to defy reality itself. And as I was dragged into the depths of the abandoned house on Elm Street, I couldn't help but wonder if anyone would ever find me, or if I would become just another ghostly inhabitant of this cursed place. It was a stormy night, the kind that sent shivers down your spine and made you question every creak and groan of the old house. I was working the late shift at the pizza joint, hoping for a quiet night despite the weather. But as luck would have it, the phone rang just as I was about to close up shop. I answered with a weary sigh, only to be met with static on the other end of the line. "Hello," I called out, wondering if it was just a prank call. To my surprise, a voice crackled through the static, low and raspy. "I need a pizza," it said, sending a chill down my spine. I hesitated for a moment, unsure if I should take the order, but the promise of a hefty tip won me over, and I agreed to deliver the pizza despite my misgivings. The caller gave me an address on the outskirts of town, a remote cabin nestled deep in the woods. As I drove through the storm, I couldn't shake off the feeling of dread that gnawed at my insides. When I finally arrived at the cabin, I was greeted by a sight straight out of a horror movie. The windows were boarded up, and the door hung off its hinges at a crooked angle. It was clear that no one had lived here for years. Ignoring the sinking feeling in my gut, I knocked on the door and waited. To my surprise, it swung open on its own accord, revealing a dimly lit interior shrouded in shadows. "Hello," I called out, stepping cautiously into the cabin. No one answered, but I could hear faint whispers echoing through the empty rooms. My heart pounded in my chest as I ventured further inside, the floorboards creaking beneath my feet. Suddenly, I heard a voice behind me, causing me to whirl around in terror. Standing in the doorway was a figure cloaked in darkness, their face obscured by a hood. "I've been expecting you," they said, their voice sending chills down my spine. Before I could react, they lunged forward with inhuman speed, their hands reaching out to grab me. I stumbled backward, tripping over my own feet as I scrambled to escape. But it was too late. The figure's icy grip closed around my throat, squeezing the life out of me as darkness consumed my vision. And as I gasped for air in my final moments, I couldn't help but wonder who had called for the pizza, and what sinister force had led me to this remote cabin in the woods. It was a routine night at the pizza joint, or so I thought. Little did I know that the delivery I was about to make would be far from ordinary. The order came in for a large cheese pizza, nothing out of the ordinary. But as I grabbed the pizza box and headed out the door, I couldn't shake off the feeling of unease that settled in the pit of my stomach. The address led me to a quaint suburban neighborhood where the houses all looked the same and the streets were eerily quiet. I parked in front of the designated house and grabbed the pizza, ready to make a quick delivery and get back to the safety of the store. But as I approached the front door, I noticed something strange. The windows were covered in thick curtains, and there was no sign of life inside. Ignoring my instincts, I knocked on the door and waited. To my surprise, it swung open on its own accord, revealing a dark interior that sent shivers down my spine. "Hello," I called out, my voice echoing in the empty hallway. No one answered, but I could hear faint whispers coming from the depths of the house. With a sense of dread creeping up my spine, I ventured further inside, the floorboards creaking beneath my feet. I eventually reached what appeared to be the living room, where a single candle flickered on the coffee table. Sitting in the dim light was a figure shrouded in darkness,